All right, y'all, just got the garage cleaned up. We're gonna bring this Ford Expedition in to do the oil cooler lines that are heavily leaking. Also fix a gasket between the coolant and oil. And then later on, part 2 or part what have you, we'll do the rear act. Have a pretty bad axle seal leak on the left side we'll do, but let me get this thing pulled in. All right, ladies and gents, we are underneath the 98 Ford Expedition. These two lines that are together here are the oil cooler lines, or excuse me, the oil filter adapter lines. That's bolted to a kind of a base plate type of unit that I believe houses the radiator hose as well. And then there's a gasket between that and the engine block that I need to replace, and I need to replace these lines. I've already done a small video on this before that I might show just before this, who knows. But where those lines are resting on the power steering line, it actually is wearing a hole. And then I also have a leak coming up from that end. So I'm gonna do my best to film. This is one of those jobs where I'm gonna be laying around on the floor, so I'll do my best to film. What's it called? First thing I'm gonna do is take off the oil filter, get that all drained. I'm probably not gonna go ahead and drain the engine oil yet. I need to look at the oil because I can't remember if I changed it, semi-recently. But first got it up on jack stands here, and I'm gonna take that left front wheel off, get access through the fender well. We'll go look at that here in a second. But yeah, I'll start out, drop the oil filter. I'll remove, I guess at that point, well, let me think here. I guess I should just remove it from the block first, let everything drain out, and then just take off the lines. It really doesn't matter. I'm just thinking about where I want all the oil to just be drip, 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 dripping, and I probably would want it right there rather than right there, for the time being. So I will do this first. I will get the lines unbolted from that base plate, and see there's a connector there that's actually on the power steering. This thing has a steering system. It's actually state of the art when it first came out. Again, this is a 98, to where speed sensitive steering basically. It would kind of tighten up as the faster you go. So whatever sensor that is, obviously some sort of metering system to meter the pressure, I'm assuming, I don't know. Let's go up here and check it out. So I did take this to the power wash. Unfortunately, it was a couple weeks ago. And so everything I did, I can't stand this flashlight. This thing is just absolutely trash. All right. So as you can see, you see the connector right there. It's the oil pressure sensor. It's kind of a tight area, but we're gonna get in there and get her done. And I pressure washed all the big caked up crap off, but there is some a little bit of oil that's gathered again. Of course, that's our famous filter. So Alright, let's get into it. Alright, y'all, finally got this dang thing out. First thing I did was, in fact, I drained the oil filter, put it back on, and then I got this part out, which included just two 10mm squash nuts, basically the ones, I can't remember, the ones that are crimped. It's not nylon locking nuts, but they're bent in such a way where they can't back off easily. So I had to get those off individually. And then this is basically the cover that goes over the front diff for the normal oil filter location. Of course, in the early years, this was the oil line adapters, and as you can see, that's where it was rubbing in from the power steering right there. It was leaking a teeny bit, but most of the leak has in fact been coming from this area, most likely the O-rings between the line flange and the oil filter base. So all in all, that needs to be replaced. We're just gonna do it all, and we'll of course use our existing oil pressure sensor. And in here, oh, and the biggest tough thing about this was, this one was, I saw easily, I took out one bolt that actually wasn't supposed to come out, this one. But man, this one was a bear to get. That one I just had to loosen. It was up under here basically. And then this one was also a pain in the butt because it was right here, pointing straight up. So anyways, just a bad spot. And then back here, this will be tomorrow. I'm gonna get this base. This basically is, it mates up the oil adapter lines, and then what do you see right there? Boom. Basically the lower hose, the lower radiator hose. So the gasket that goes in between this part and the block is what's causing my coolant to basically, you probably can't see anything at this point, but if you saw the video where I did the heater core on this thing, it was a lot of sediment, and I'm gonna have to flush this thing pretty good. And what I mean by sediment, it was a lot of something that wasn't just coolant. And what's happening is there's a little bit of oil, engine oil, seeping into the coolant system, and it's mixing. And of course, when it's hot and mixed, it becomes like a soup. But hopefully there's no damage anywhere. We're gonna get the gasket replaced. And then we're of course gonna drain all of our coolant out. We're gonna put some Simple Green in there, something like that, and really just flush the system, run it around, drain it, flush it, drain it, flush it, drain it, flush it. And once I'm confident that all the, of course, oil's out, but then all the soap is out, we'll be able to refill and be done. So this is shaping up to be quite the job. This is gonna be easier going in than came out, but yeah, it was still a pain in the butt. I got absolutely just filthy. My sweater, of course, this is my work sweater. And then after we get this job buttoned up, we still have to do the wheel seal on this thing. In fact, let's go take a look. I'm gonna stop the video and turn on this thing's light. I got a light right here. I bet you it's pretty bad. Oh yeah. Oh. There it is, folks. That's what I have to do next. That's why this thing is being driven a lot. It is leaking like a sieve. I gotta do, basically gonna do pads, rotors, axle seals, and of course get everything cleaned up. I'll have to take this thing off. Of course, change the rear diff fluid. It's a good time to change all the fluids. I need to get the front diff fluid changed. But the key to these things staying running, everybody. Of course, look at this side. Dry as a bone, but I'll change that side while we're in there. But yeah, this thing is not looking too good. So that'll be next. I'll back it in so I have this end towards the front of the garage. And we will see you guys next time on Last Frontier Garage. All right, hey folks, part 2 here. In fact, I don't know when the video is going to be edited, but if it's going to be a separate video or not. But we have our gasket that we're installing. I'm feeling the ridges of the rubber here, and it's quite pronounced. And if you look over here, this is I just got this off the block. It's installed basically like this, and it was a pain in the arse to get out. But what I'm looking at here is, so these obviously right here, the coolant part of the rubber is just absolutely toasted. It probably has been getting burned up from the exhaust manifold. It's really close to the exhaust. And then of course our oil lines, and if I flip it over, this is pretty flat right here. There's barely a lot of any sort of what's his name. And upon further inspection here, on the bottom one, I have a pretty good round. You know, you can kind of see the impression where it was actually keeping things out. If you look here, kind of round we go, and even though you can kind of see something here, but you can kind of just see that this area right here is just a little washed out. It's not definitive, so, but the lines, of course I got my lines off here. Here we go, zoom out. So I'm gonna clean up this part. Obviously let's go over to the vehicle here. This thing was a pain in the butt, guys, oh my goodness. Between the radiator hose and everything else, getting it off. Let's see here. I got so much flipping glare. Sorry guys, I'm still hacked off. This thing was just, as you can see, it is just way down in there. 4 bolts. So I'm gonna clean all the surfaces up. I still have this thing here, which in fact, I'm gonna try to film a little bit in there. Sorry, this is just really for me. I'm wondering why there's so much oil built up right here. You see all that oil coming down there? Jeepers. I have no idea why that's doing that. It's from the head gaskets. Might be what it's from. Because look at that, that's below the manifold. It's the head gasket issue. Obviously not a coolant issue. And then you look above. This is right above the whole area. And it's pretty much dry as a bone, including the you know, the valve cover. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and say that. So I'm gonna get everything cleaned up. That's pretty cool. I actually figured out what was actually going on there. Let's look at our coolant. As you can see, it looks like what do you call it? Pea soup. And if you look on the edges, you can actually see the normal coolant basically ready to settle out. And that's what it will do. There you go. So all that is sediment, and I'm pretty sure that's just teeny oil droplets getting in through here. So that's the problem we're addressing. This thing, oh my goodness, look at me. I got my sleeves folded up, and I already cleaned up. But look at my shirt. I already cleaned this up. This is just for me looking around there. No big deal, but anyway, but this is the new lines. Of course, it's freaking, I got it from O'Reilly's, and the freaking bag's been opened. Everything looks great on it. Not worried about it, but $173 part. You'd think it'd be a new one, but it's like the only one in the state, pretty much. Ridiculous. So pretty much, if anytime these are leaking, it's usually going to be the O-rings. And on mine, I had a rub spot right here on the old one, so I honestly don't think they are replaced that often, because when it does leak, it's an O-ring issue. Now, of course, with mine, I had to go deeper to this adapter and actually change this gasket. And again, I would have just done the O-rings, but in fact, there you can see it. It rubbed into the secondary rubber, and that's just not safe, you know, for long-term things. And then right here, well, luckily it didn't have really a rough spot. Oh, let's be on top. Let's see here. See anything? A little bit. All right. A teeny bit. Ugh. All right, y'all. There it is. Pain in the butt. As you can see, I did drain the coolant, but of course I had more in the block that didn't get drained. Of course, the whole thing's raised up anyway, so you're not going to get a complete drain. After I get that adapter back in, the new line's on, everything's sealed up, I'm going to lower the nose, jack the rear end, and drain it some more. And then, like I said the other day, fill it with water and some Simple Green, run it around, and just do like 2 or 3 flushes, make sure everything's out. You know, bad coolant and soap wise. And then last but not least, get enough water out to when I add regular coolant, it's a proper mixture. So anyways, y'all, there's the vet waiting its turn. It's all this COVID stuff has really shifted our priorities, so there it sits. It's ready, but all right, y'all, later. All right, ladies and gents, we are here, going back together. Finally got everything cleaned up. It took forever because it's just absolutely, you can see how gunky it is, and just got everything cleaned up. I put a little thin layer of silicone kind of on the back side of the gasket just to help. There was some pitting in the engine, just from rust and whatnot, but man, it was tough to get in there. And I was reading the service manuals out there, and they first thing it says is remove the front differential assembly. So normally the whole front diff drops down, you can just get at it pretty easily, but to get obviously the first bolt started, I started with that one right there that you see, and I had both my arms in here, and it was pretty tough. But then I was looking down here. In fact, the light is blocking it, but basically there's a perfect shot. In fact, you can see the bottom end of it there. That's the other bolt there, and there's 2 more. There you go, 1, 2, and you can actually get to the other one from here too. It's just right there. Anyways, I'm losing the see it. Anyway, so that's pretty much the secret, to go do a long extension through here. And let me zoom back out here. So anyways, it's doable. And we got the lines ready to go. I'm gonna install the lines onto this first, and then feed this through the front of the bumper, and then line it up, get her slung on there, and this thing will be good. It'll be good to go here. We're gonna tape these on so I can push it through everything without the guards falling off and everything getting dirty. So cool. Let me get this part together, and get her done. All right. Torqued down the base, of course, and then installed our lines. Of course, I fed this end through here first, and then once I got everything kind of half rigged up, I carefully tightened everything down. Honestly, don't like the fit and feel of this Dorman line. This is a Dorman part, so I'm just praying that it does not leak. Got the lower hose back on with the new hose clamp. Of course, I got the oil pressure sensor back on the new line. Got everything plugged in. Let's go look at it from here. So basically, there you have it. Sorry guys, I'm having a weird position here. There you have it, all set up, ready to go. I got some rubber hose, kind of making sure it doesn't have any rub spots, put that one on the power steering line. It actually looks really good. I had to bend the lines a little bit just to make sure they weren't too cranked over or anything like that. And everything's looking pretty good. We gotta watch this side right here. It's pretty close to the power steering pump housing, so I'm gonna have to look at that. But yeah, and pretty straightforward. It was a difficult job, I will say that. It was just so tight. So what I'm gonna do is lower it down. I'm gonna drain the oil, put fresh oil in there. I'm gonna drain the coolant. Now that the nose of it's down, I'll probably jack up the rear end. Make sure we just dump all the old stuff out, and then I'll make a nice mixture of water and simple green. And then we'll run it around. Probably not let it get too hot. Just because I don't want that simple green to cook inside there, which I don't think it would. I'm not sure about that. So I might also pick up sort of a radiator flush treatment. That way we could run it for a while and I could drain it. Just really make sure all the sediment and everything that may have been left over, any, what's it called, you know, film, any oily film or anything like that. So, but yeah, we're about to do it. Get her done here. Over and out.